March 7, 2024, News Report 1. On March 7, 2024, Liberty Times reported that Taiwan's Minister of National Defense, Chiu Kuo-cheng, stated at the Legislative Yuan that the Ministry of National Defense has modified the conditions for the first strike. The first strike refers to the conditions under which the National Army launches its first attack. In the past, Taiwan would only launch a first strike if China fired at Taiwan. However, now, as long as the PLA initiates the first attack, Taiwan will also launch a first strike. Minister Chiu emphasized that the changing environment, with PLA aircraft or warships trespassing, necessitated a revision in Taiwan's first strike policy. While Taiwan will not initiate conflicts, if the PLA continues to escalate, Taiwan will have no choice but to respond, essentially issuing a final warning to the Chinese military. Additionally, Taiwan's Ministry of National Defense disclosed that on March 6, 8 PLA fighter jets and 5 warships were active in the vicinity of the Taiwan Strait, with 1 helicopter operating within Taiwan's Eastern Air Defense Identification Zone. News Report 2. According to Agence France-Presse, Michael, the chairman of the House Foreign Affairs Committee, announced that he would lead a delegation to Taiwan to attend the inauguration ceremony of Lai Ching-te on May 20. Michael stated that his last visit to Taiwan was in April 2023, where he met with Taiwan's President Tsai Ing-wen. He views China's military exercises and sanctions against him as examples of Chinese aggression. Taiwan's Ministry of Foreign Affairs stated that they have not yet received confirmation of Michael's visit but welcome it and express support for Taiwan. News Report 3. According to Radio Television Hong Kong, Chief Executive Li Keqiao announced that on March 8, the draft legislation for Article 23 of the Basic Law, the National Security Law, would be gazetted and submitted to the Legislative Council for consideration. The Government Gazette is a statutory publication issued by the Hong Kong government, and all laws must be gazetted and made public before they can be enacted, which is a legal procedure for legislation in Hong Kong. Li stated that he has written to the President of the Legislative Council requesting the expeditious completion of the legislative process. This action aligns with Xi Jinping's instructions, aiming to complete the legislation as quickly as possible to preempt reactions from the United States, the European Union, and Western countries. The process differs from the legislation of the National Security Law, which was completed step by step under the supervision of the Trump administration. Attorney General Lin Dinghua, attending the Legislative Council's Article 23 Legislation Group meeting on March 7, stated that the proposed Article 23 legislation would disclose activities endangering national security and increase penalties for acts involving collusion with foreign forces. This reflects the CCP's fear of foreign forces. Lin also mentioned adding a defense of public interest to crimes involving national secrets, although the threshold is high. This essentially reflects Xi Jinping's application of his concept of national security to Hong Kong, reflecting Xi Jinping's thinking. News Report 4. According to Japan Broadcasting Corporation (NHK), the Japanese government plans to introduce 800,000 foreign laborers from 2024 to 2029, reflecting the impact of Japan's population issues on the economy. In the past 5 years, Japan has introduced 350,000 foreign workers, and plans to increase this number to 800,000 in the next 5 years. Among the foreign workers planned to be introduced to Japan, 170,000 are in the manufacturing industry, 130,000 in the food and beverage industry, 80,000 in the construction industry, and 70,000 in agriculture. Currently, Japan has 2 million foreign workers, and the government predicts that by 2100, foreigners will account for 10% of Japan's population. Japan launched the Specific Skills Residence System in 2019, and as of the end of last November, 200,000 foreign workers hold this status. To ensure an adequate workforce, the Japanese government has expanded the fields of specific skill workers to 12. In February of this year, an additional 4 fields were added, including transportation railways and wood processing factories. To address these sectors and Japan's aging population, the Japanese government plans to introduce 25,000 foreign workers to work as taxi drivers, bus drivers, and truck drivers. In addition to expanding the quota for specific skill residents, the Japanese government will also propose a bill to the Diet to introduce a new non-skilled foreign labor system, terminating the situation of introducing foreign labor under the guise of trainees, paving the way for foreign workers without special skills to work in Japan. This indicates that Japan's attitude towards foreign workers is beginning to align with other countries, no longer adopting strict restrictions, largely due to the severe aging population issue faced by Japan. News Report 5. On March 6, the Federal Reserve released the Beige Book, a survey report on the national economic situation. This report is compiled based on surveys of the 12 regional Federal Reserve banks. The latest Beige Book shows that since early January, the U.S. economy has seen slight growth, with consumer spending slightly declining and household consumption continuing to decrease. However, the increase in mortgage rates has slowed, actually declining rather than slowing down, and housing demand has increased. News Report 6. According to the data released by the General Administration of Customs of China on March 7, the total exports for January and February were $528 billion, a year-on-year increase of 7.1%, while the total imports were $402.8 billion, a year-on-year increase of 3.5%. Among them, China's exports to the United States were $73.4 billion, an increase of 5%. Exports to ASEAN were $82.7 billion, an increase of 6%. Compared with the same period last year, China's total exports for January and February were $506.3 billion, a year-on-year increase of 2%. China customs data shows that last year, China exported $3.38 trillion to the United States, while the U.S. Department of Commerce data shows that the total value of goods imported from China by the United States last year was $3.1 trillion. This indicates that China customs data is about $280 billion higher than U.S. Department of Commerce data. Generally, China customs data is considered more reliable because other countries also publish corresponding data. Foreign countries have no motivation to falsify data, while China may have motivation. Meanwhile, data released by the People's Bank of China shows that as of the end of February, China's foreign exchange reserves were $3.22 trillion, an increase of $6.5 billion from the previous month, and gold reserves were 72.58 million ounces, an increase of 390,000 ounces. This indicates that the People's Bank of China is still buying gold. News Report 7. The Hong Kong Monetary Authority announced on March 7 that the Ministry of Finance will issue RMB sovereign bonds in Hong Kong, with a scale of 12 billion renminbi. This is the first time this year that China has issued sovereign bonds in Hong Kong, with the bidding date set for March 13 and the settlement date for March 15. As of 2023, the Ministry of Finance has been issuing sovereign bonds in Hong Kong for 15 years in a row, with a cumulative issuance amount of 300 to 310 billion renminbi. The issuance scale last year was 50 billion renminbi, an increase of 117%, setting a historical record. Hong Kong is China's largest offshore RMB market. Singapore used to lead, but Hong Kong surpassed Singapore later. Hong Kong is the world's largest offshore RMB market, with a scale of about 7 to 8 trillion renminbi, which may increase slightly. The total liquidity pool in Hong Kong is around 10 trillion renminbi. The purpose of China issuing sovereign bonds in Hong Kong is multifaceted. On the one hand, it is for fundraising, but the fundraising effect is secondary because the amount is not large. The main purpose is to reduce the circulation of RMB in Hong Kong and stabilize the exchange rate. According to Li Jiazhao's statement in January this year, as of October last year, Hong Kong's RMB deposits had reached 1 trillion renminbi. Therefore, the main purpose of the Ministry of Finance issuing sovereign bonds in Hong Kong is to reduce the amount of RMB in circulation in Hong Kong and stabilize the exchange rate. News Report 8. Voice of America reported that Egyptian officials said that the ceasefire negotiations in Gaza had reached a deadlock. Hamas insists on including a timetable for ending the war in the negotiation agenda, which is the reason for the deadlock in the negotiations. This round of negotiations ended on March 6, lasting for 4 days. The United States, Qatar, and Egypt spent several weeks drafting this ceasefire agreement. The content of the ceasefire agreement includes, a ceasefire will be achieved before the Muslim festival of Eid al-Fitr on March 10, the ceasefire will last for 6 weeks, Hamas will release 40 Israeli hostages, and Israel will release Palestinian prisoners. Hamas has accepted the main terms of the ceasefire agreement. However, Hamas hopes that Israel will commit to achieving a permanent ceasefire in the end. But Israel has rejected this request, stating that it only accepts a temporary ceasefire. Israel has stated that it will resume attacks after the ceasefire, and its ultimate goal is to eliminate Hamas. Hamas has stated that it will only release all hostages when Israel withdraws from Gaza. Currently, Hamas is still holding more than 100 Israeli hostages. The Hamas delegation left Egypt on March 7 and will consult with Hamas leaders and continue negotiations and efforts. According to Egyptian officials, negotiators will pressure Hamas and Israel to soften their positions, and negotiations will resume next week. News Report 9. Australian Prime Minister Albanese announced on March 7 that Canada has announced the upgrading of Australia's relationship with Vietnam to a comprehensive strategic partnership. A comprehensive strategic partnership is one of Vietnam's highest levels of diplomatic relations with other countries. Vietnam has already established comprehensive strategic partnerships with China, Russia, and the United States, and has now added Australia. Australia and Vietnam signed 12 cooperation agreements on March 7, involving energy, minerals, agriculture, banking, and finance, among other areas. The two sides also held a ministerial-level dialogue meeting to discuss cooperation in key mineral supply chains aimed at reducing dependence on China. Vietnam has the world's second-largest rare earth mine, which is attractive to Australian mining companies. Vietnam has adopted a balanced diplomatic strategy, known as bamboo diplomacy, to cope with tense situations. Australia's strengthening of ties with the entire Indo-Pacific region aims to reduce dependence on China and achieve trade diversification. In the past few years, Australia's trade diversification strategy has been very successful. News Report 10. China Central Television reported that China will unilaterally implement a visa-free policy for 6 European countries including Switzerland, Ireland, Hungary, Austria, Belgium, and Luxembourg from March 14. Tourists holding passports from these countries can enter China without a visa for a stay of 15 days, for purposes including business, tourism, visiting relatives, or transit. The visa-free policy will last until November 30. In December last year, China announced a unilateral visa-free policy for 5 countries including France, Germany, Italy, Spain, and the Netherlands. Earlier this year, Singapore, Thailand, Malaysia, and other countries signed mutual visa-free agreements with China. Due to the impact of the epidemic, the number of foreign tourists traveling to China has sharply decreased. As of the first half of 2023, the number of foreign tourists received by Chinese travel agencies was only 470,000, a decrease of nearly 95% from 2019. China hopes to attract more international tourists, including investors, through the visa-free policy. News Report 11. According to Twitter messages, the government building of Zhangjiagang City, Jiangsu Province, exploded on the afternoon of March 7, causing the glass of the main gate to be blown up. Photos show white smoke coming from the government building, broken entrance glass, and a deformed liquefied gas cylinder on the ground. At the explosion site, there was a flyer signed by Yuan Jianhong, claiming that he blew up the Zhangjiagang city government building, demanding the recovery of confiscated property such as factories and private homes, and stating that he is waiting to surrender. Yuan Jianhong is reportedly the legal representative of Zhangjiagang Hesheng CNC machine tool manufacturing company. The incident occurred during the two sessions, but there was no information on Weibo, and some netizens on Twitter expressed support for Yuan Jianhong. The Jiangsu Provincial Public Security Department also had a fire on the same day, but there is no more information. News Report 12. The National Security Department of China issued an article on its WeChat public account, reminding military enthusiasts not to disclose Chinese military secrets. The article warns that there are three major risks to military enthusiasts leaking secrets. The deer-pointing type refers to providing intelligence to overseas military organizations. The guide type refers to helping overseas intelligence agencies obtain information. And the ground knife type refers to sharing military intelligence information online. These behaviors may lead to becoming intelligence officers or being used by foreign personnel, threatening national security. The article emphasizes that patriotism should not come at the cost of leaking military secrets, and reminds military enthusiasts to act cautiously.